Hello and welcome to the Sheep Seats. I am your host, Matthew, aka Sheep, aka Dark Sheep. And here I am tonight. It's Friday night. Baseball season is just around the corner, a long corner. And tonight we are joined for this draft, RallyDurham. Welcome, my friend.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me on.
The chat is popping. Everybody's here. Everybody's here to see you. How do you feel about that?
Oh, good, man. It's I'm ready for another season of baseball. Had a pretty successful year last year, and just trying to give back some of the information that was kind of given freely to me through the Badge Bros channel and your channel, and of course I've been watching a lot of your new channel, Stacking Dingers, that you're kind of the lead guy on, and just wanted to kind of share some of the tips and pointers that I've been utilizing in building my lineup so far this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm not really leading that. Everybody's ready. That's definitely a group effort. I've been hosting the shows, but everybody's been contributing where they can. So that's been cool this year. If you haven't checked that out, stackingdingers.com. It's a Substack. There's Chris Baseball's the data articles are going to be up. He's got some initial stuff. He's working on some other ones. We got some rankings that we're working on updating to a little bit larger amount of players. We had the top 100 before. So yeah, check that out. So we're here. We're drafting. Chip says 3 more, so we might let this fill. And I think the thing that you wanted to talk about, when we were talking beforehand was, something that you're really focusing on is trying to build for the finals right now.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that really stuck with me last year is I had 59 teams in the Dinger, and only one of them made the finals, right? And the end of that, the end result of all these players and picks and rosters is the one that really the only one that matters is the one that gets there. And when you show up in the finals, you want to have a roster that can win it. Anyone can win their league, come in top 2 of 12 in their league, but that's not going to win you any money. That's just going to get your money back. So when we're building these lineups, we want to be thinking about the levers we can pull that kind of give us a chance to make a deep run, whether that being tight correlations, multiple mini stacks, having pivots off of the chalky stacks, that kind of stuff. It's just so important because at the end of the day, winning your league is not going to help you make money in best ball, and that's in any sport.
Yeah, so I do have your lineup last year, and I know the one that got through, I don't actually have it set up to share, but I have it open here, was the thing that really put you over the top is your Atlanta stack.
Sure. And that was, Atlanta massively overperformed last year. I'm going to take a look at it real quick. But also on top of that, I had a Boston stack. And Tristan Casas, when he heated up at the end of the year, just kind of carried that as like my second stack. And I think that's the important thing is that, you're going to need like one primary stack or some really, really major hitters at the top, but everybody's going to have those guys. You're not going to be the only one with Ronald Acuna or Juan Soto or whoever. And if you don't have that secondary stack where you can kind of differentiate, you don't really have as many outs to finish up high. Now, I got a little unlucky in the finals that Boston, I think, scored something ridiculous, like 21 runs in 12 games. They were 2 runs a game. They went major cold. But had they performed at the finals, I'm sitting in the top 5 almost without a doubt, just because I had that stack that no one else had once I got there. And so that's what I'm really looking for is teams that, of course, the primary stacks that can get me there, but also those secondaries and minis and correlations and young players like Casas. What was he, 23 last year? He had a really, really slow start, but I had enough strength up top with Acuna and the Brave stack. It really didn't matter what my other guys did. Acuna carried all kinds of trash into the playoffs.
For sure. Yeah. So I did see somebody say it filled. So if you want to hop into the latest Dinger, we can.
Sounds good. I'm in.
Oh,
anybody in the chat that wants to join us? Oh, waiting for one. Hurry.
Oh, wow.
These
drafts are firing off quick tonight. Hopefully everybody was camping I'm in there.
Okay,
All right,
beautiful.
yeah. So we got a good group here.
Oh boy, Nez is in there. CLT Blue. Okay, there we go. We got a lot of
Yep.
folks.
Billy Joe is in the audience. Somebody likes your FPN shirt.
Yeah, I had to rep it. I'm actually wearing the shirt backwards. I don't care. I just think it looks better this way. The Lions are in the semis. I'm a big Barry fan from Tecmo Super Bowl days, and very active in Friday Night Punks, and just wanted to rep the shirt.
Nice. Yeah. So Billy Joe's in here as he's laying his claim to fame here. He was a finalist 2022 and 2023. So that's awesome.
Okay.
Wu-Tang Killer Bees is in here. Who else we got? Turn Me Up, CLT Go Blue. So we got a who's who. It should be a tough room. You are in the position of 2, so you get this Judge Soto decision.
Yeah, it's not much of a decision for me.
Okay.
I'm going to keep doing it the way I've been doing it. Last year, one of the probably my biggest successes is I put Acuna over Soto in the 2-hole, and being 2x the field on Acuna just gave me a lot of opportunities to sneak like that Boston stack I was talking to you. And so for me, Judge is, if he's got a ceiling that Soto just doesn't have.
Yeah.
And I like Soto fine, but I'm just going Judge every time.
A new name, welcome, Sea Slave. I haven't seen you around. Thanks for joining here in pick 12. Excellent. Sorry, Matt. This is going off the rails. So yeah, here is wide open. I think I'm going to take either Mookie or Ohtani here. 2 guys that I'm not getting this pick too often. I think I'm going to go Ohtani because I don't have like any of him. I don't want to be 0 on him. So we're going to start with that. Start a little bit different. No real big insight on that other than he could be the guy.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I've predominantly gone Mookie over Ohtani, but
yeah,
I just want to see Ohtani come back, swing the bat, get a feel for how many games I think I can project out of him. And he can't really go any higher, but he certainly can go a lot lower if the reports out of camp are not good immediately.
True. Yeah.
So I don't mind being a little underweight Ohtani here and then getting my exposure later in the drafting season.
Yep. That makes a ton of sense. And I've said it before, but I'm pretty disappointed this year that Mookie had his like ceiling year last year, because I've always been really over the field on the last 2 years on Mookie, because he's always been going at the end of the first round. So it's kind of sad this year that I'm not. He's like one of my favorite players to watch. So.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Dodgers games, and I had a lot of Mookie last year, and he was excellent. I have some concerns about him going 4th, but man, if that lineup just mashes and they're batting around and he's getting 5 ABs, and I don't know if he's playing in the infield, like they're not going to sit him. They're not going to sit an infield guy very frequently, and he's just so consistent if he can stay healthy that he kind of walks you to those 100-point weeks.
Exactly. And he's started to go more towards power than his younger days. So he's getting those home runs that he didn't really quite get before as much. Davo, this is a 20-round draft. So there's 3 positions. There's pitcher, infielder, and outfielder. You'll see the 3 different colors. And at the end, you're going to end up with 20 players. And usually you want to have about 6 to 8 of each position, depending on when you start taking that position early in your draft capital. So yeah, we're gonna have 20 players.
We see Schwarber go number 12 there in the first round. I don't have any problem with that. I've been just smashing them at like 14 and 15, 16. I don't think there's that much difference taking them there, because man, now that we've seen some of those outfielders really press up in the 3rd and 4th round, if you don't get one there in the back end, you don't have one. And it's brutal to try to build. I tried to do one last night on Woo-Woo's stream with Billy Jones, and my team, I hated my team at the end of it because I didn't go outfield in the first at the first, you know.
We
Schwarber's
got
also nice. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Schwarber and Judge, two things I like about those guys. I don't ever feel like I have to stack those guys. They're such one-offs. They're going to hit enough bombs and walks that it doesn't matter if you have those guys stacked at all.
Yeah, so we got longtime viewer Dave here, who is a Pirates and Astros fan. So
There we go.
We have a lot of Pirates fans around the
Yeah,
show.
I see Nez in the draft. That makes me concerned if we're going to duke it out over these late round Pirates.
Yeah, I don't think he's too on Pirates this year. All right, so I'm up here. Pretty much right here, you're choosing between a stud infielder, the second tier of stud infielders, or if you want to push an outfielder. I haven't gotten to much Christian Yelich in the dinger yet, so this is sort of I'll do my homer draft tonight while you guys take all the Pirates and do a little Ohtani Yelich combo here. Obviously, I'm pushing him up past some guys that are probably or could be higher ceiling. But by taking Ohtani first, I'm saying that he's the guy, he's going to be healthy. And then I'm just going to have Yelich as my outfielder 2 for the season.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's pushing them up, but these outfielders are all getting pushed up. And one of the things when the other outfielders are getting pushed up, like in that 30 to say 60, 70 range, heck, even 80, 90 range, I don't think the right thing to do is to chase them up the board. I think the better thing to do is just secure them early. Who cares if I'm pushing a guy from pick 27 to pick 23? That's almost irrelevant. Whereas chasing them up the board from 80 to 62, that has a lot more relevance. Interesting spot here. I think I'm going to stick to what I just said there and really push them up and just go ahead and lock down the outfield.
Yeah.
And that's not a move that I always do, but it's not something I hesitate to do.
Yeah, that's a really nice combo of guys ceiling. You can almost like take a break on outfielder with those 3 for a while.
Yeah, and I'm looking around at this room with 11 badges in here, all names that are recognizable, and I already recognize there's going to be an outfield avalanche here, and so I want to go ahead and lock them down and try to just move on.
Yeah, I am not going to force another outfielder here. I'm going to take a Pete Alonso here. It's interesting. I kind of view Guerrero, Alonso, Devers pretty similarly. Overall, I know a lot of people are down on Vlad this year, and a lot of people I've seen a lot of people pretty high on Alonso despite a real low, just basically he had the power. He didn't really have any batting average or anything. But to me, ultimately the range of outcomes on those 3 guys, the top end is all the same. So I'm not too picky on those 3. So we will just take that here.
Yeah, I like Alonso a lot, and I don't have a whole lot of them right now. I did take a lot of them in the bullpen, but I plan to get a lot of him. But when he was going at 21, 22, 23, I was a little hesitant. Now that he's fallen into that 3rd round, I'm probably going to start smashing him a lot.
Yeah, and part of taking that outfielder there, all those same infielders were more towards the top of the queue. I just kind of took whoever I was going to take whoever came back. It was weird because they all came back. Well, I guess not too weird because you and Dino Core just, are establishing the outfield. Yeah, Vlad goes there before Devers.
Yeah, I think it's important with understanding your room. That's one of the first things I'm going to look at is how many badges are in there. Where do those that second group of outfields go? Are they going at 15 and 18 and or where are they going? Because a lot of times you can read the room that way and make sure that you are not the guy that's getting left out without a dance partner.
Yeah. So CLT Go Blue, our buddy here, Ben, did go with a Strider Bobby Witt start. So should be interesting to see how he puts together his outfield from here.
Is Billy Joe? Is that Billy Jones that's doing all that work on Twitter?
No, that's separate. Billy Joe is the guy he posted earlier. You know, he's been into a couple Dinger finals already.
Gotcha.
I
One
definitely
thing
have
you've
been
got to
looking.
really curate your Twitter list right now. If you're not in the Deposit King Discord or something such as the Deposit Kingdom Discord, or watching these Badge Bros channels, or subscribing to guys like Baseball or Stacking Dingers or Billy Jones, the graphs they're putting out, the charts. It's a great way to measure kind of how people were successful last year, and then we've got a lot of analytical people that play best ball. Okay. So they're doing a good job interpreting the data also, which is the most important thing. We're not just making sweeping broad conclusions off that stuff. They're analyzing, how it worked, because what we want to be doing is operating with the framework of what worked last year and then making minor tweaks so that we can differentiate our lineups from the guys that are just purely drafting off a spreadsheet.
Yeah. And something that has come up a lot from last year is the advance rate of early pitcher and how it was really bad. And I just I pulled up a few boards from last year and I started going through the names of the pitchers that were at the top there, and it was interesting. So I do plan on investigating that a little further and maybe putting that. But if you go through the early pitchers last year, it's a bunch of injuries and a bunch of just like a couple of minor busts, but it's
Right.
like the first 4 rounds of pitchers are just all busts. So I do think that the advance rate statistics are a little bit skewed from last year. So I do want to explore that more. But like you said, they're doing all this interesting stuff. So yeah, following those people and just being part of the conversation, because right now I was thinking about this today. Like every lineup that gets posted in most places that I'm looking are good lineups. Like you can quibble with like players and whatever, but everybody's got the structure down now. I feel like this year. And even if you're like looking, go ahead.
One thing that's important to be cognizant of is those pitchers are falling right now, right? People are looking at the data to show that your advance rate was trash if you've spent early capital on pitchers, and they're falling. And so whether or not you agree or disagree with where they should be going, the important thing is that they're falling. And you don't want to be loading up on these guys in the 3rd and 4th round who a month from now are going in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and everybody's got better prices than you.
Yeah, I am going to take my anchor here in Zach Gallen. And as I was talking, I was also adding my stacking partners. This is how I draft. Like, I'm not too worried about on stream being sniped or whatever. Everybody can figure out who I'm probably targeting based on who I took before. So for me, when I'm drafting, I like to just like highlight all the stacking partners of my early picks. So that way I can just see the stars over on the left as I'm looking through my picks. So you also took your anchor guy there.
I did.
With Pablo.
I look and I think there's a pretty nice tier break coming behind that. And I didn't want him to get snatched there at the 48-49 spot, because I think these other infielders, I'm fine with any of them. So that was really the whole. I think for me, I've got an easy decision here with Altuve.
Okay.
Yeah. And then whereas if I had gone the opposite way, had I taken Altuve, I'm left with no pitcher. I'm having to reach for Castellanos where I've already got 3 outfielders. It's important when you're going around that bend to anticipate what the other person's going to do and not leave yourself in a situation where you're kind of forced into a pick you don't want to make.
Yeah. And here, I don't think Ghost is going to take Teoscar. He has this price has become kind of not palatable to me, but as a stacking partner, I'm still adding him. But like I'm not adding him as solo as much as I was before when he was before he signed with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm not out on him either. This is kind of what I was talking about when I made those 3 outfielder picks up early. Do I want to take a Rosarina 1 pick too early, or do I want to take Teoscar 10 picks too early? Or do I just want to forego a 3rd outfielder and hope in a room with 11 badges in it, there's somebody left for me to pick, 100, which is not going to happen.
All right, let's see what we got going on in the chat here as we made those picks. Chips all the Pete Alonso. Billy Jones is saying no. He avoids stream drafts. Probably a smart man.
Yeah, I mean, avoiding the stream drafts, there's benefits. There's pros and cons. Okay, so if the guys are going in a different order in a sharp room, yes, it's going to be harder to win this room. But if I can win this room with unique prices on my players, it potentially puts me in a better position in the playoffs against other people. You just got to know how to differentiate. Like in my situation there, I maybe don't do those 3 outfielders, but knowing how sharp this room is, I do it. And then I say, hey, I'm probably going to take a stab on some infielders that slide to me in this room. Certainly some pitchers that slide in this room that would not in a room full of casuals.
Yeah.
But I do agree with this general point. You don't want to be doing all 150 of your drafts with the sharpest rooms possible. That's just not good for your overall portfolio.
Yeah. So Turn Me Up is, he's talking about how he faded Sandy, but it goes beyond Sandy. I'm definitely going to explore this a little more in detail. It was just something I was looking at a few boards from last year. Maybe I'll find time to actually write it up for Stacking Dingers.
Well, and here's the thing: if you full fade all the pitchers in the 5th round, like Strider went into 3rd, early 4th, I think last year. I had a lot of because his strikeout rate was so high, and he propelled a lot of average lineups into pretty good spots. So the chances that like all 10 of them are going to fail are almost 0. So you really want to still be taking stabs on these people, even if collectively you're underweight or there's 1 or 2 of them you just don't draft at all. I don't think you want to fade. We saw that with football where everyone said, fade the elite quarterbacks. Quarterbacks aren't worth the 2nd round pick. And then what happened? Josh Allen smashed all season. Jalen Hurts smashed all season. And if you had those 2 guys, you put yourself in a good position where you drug a lot of other guys along. I think fading any group in just across the board is a huge mistake. But that said, you do want to be underweight on those guys, in my opinion. So here's where I like to watch where those outfielders go. Sorry. You got Santander, Lane Thomas, Suzuki, Ozuna all going around that bend, which is going to put a lot of pressure on the room if you don't already have 3 outfielders.
Yeah, for sure. Drunk on Pappy might need to have another drink because they're building a pretty interesting group here. They're both behind that outfield and infield with these 3 pitchers up here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to advance in this room, but there are ways to correct it. I mean, I think I would be building a 5-pitcher build there. I'm not a 5. I don't build a lot of 5-pitcher.
Yeah,
if you're going to expend that kind of capital, it's quantity or quality. You can't do both. If you do both too frequently, you're just going to get mashed. You've got to finish. A lot of people are used to fantasy leagues where you can finish maybe top 6 of 12 and make the playoffs. This is top 2 of 12 against people who are professionals, semi-professional, high-level thinkers. You're not going to finish top 2 of 12 too often if your structure doesn't make sense.
Yes, sir. All right. Let's see. We do have a group of pitchers here building up as they're falling a little bit. I might. All right. I am going to take one. I'm going to take Tariq Skubal. With a Zach Gallen, I don't have to worry that Tariq Skubal's going to, if he misses some time, because the question on him this year is innings, just how much he's been injured recently. Excuse me.
Yeah, I like Skubal a lot. I've got a ton. I drafted the heck out of him in the bullpen. I think he's a really good pick.
It might a lot more people are on. I mean, that's not true. Tariq Skubal and George Kirby both have a ton of esteem this year. But I'm in this format specifically, I'm Skubal over Kirby because I know the strikeouts are there for Skubal.
Okay, and I make an aggressive move there with Jordan Walker, 71. He's not a guy I have a ton of, and going for outfielders feels a little questionable here, perhaps. But again, it's just based on the room dynamics. I want to go ahead and secure those guys.
Yeah, we have Turn Me Up, saying he's pushing Ozuna up for the stack too. So yeah, definitely people are building that way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't want to be. I'd rather. I know these guys are going to leave me some pitching. I know they're going to leave every draft. You walk away with some infield choices late, and I don't want to be sitting here with my fourth outfielder being a guy that I'm not even sure he's going to play every day. Room dynamics are just very, very important, particularly on Underdog. I know I like to draft a lot of times at like 4 a.m. when there's not too many regulars in there, but I also like to draft some of these tough rooms just because I can get a very unique build, but I will draft much different against this level of competition.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna do something that many viewers will find surprising. I'm gonna take Royce Lewis here. I'm not super high on him this year, as I've said in the past, but I don't want to have none. I kind of was hoping he was going to keep falling a little bit, but he's back into this 80 range. I was hoping he was going to be in the 90s. I was going to take him there with like this Yandy Diaz, Casas. But we're going to take him here. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, I just saw your question. I am a Pirates fan, huge Pirates fan. Bonds and Bonilla, that's my era as a child, and so that's the background. It's also a shout out to Nez because I came in 44th out of 56,000 people watching his streams last year, and so we got a couple Pirates fans in here. I thought it'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Berg's definitely in on Royce. If he's healthy, he's going to smash. My issue is just his body is not held up to pro ball. I know, like Royce Lewis.
Oh, I don't know what to do with Royce. He was falling a lot, and he started to get pretty attractive, and then all of a sudden he kicked back up a few spots. Yeah. So I didn't get as much of him as I wanted to. That's why I always recommend when guys are falling, start nibbling at them, because you don't want to get all in and then he falls a whole nother round and you think, oh crap, I'm already all in. Now I'm literally 50% this random infielder. But at the same time, if you don't get any of them at those prices, you may not be getting him at all if something were to happen that pumps him up 2 rounds, or you're not getting pieces of him with guys that are available in the late rounds. Like you may be able to get some pieces of Royce with guys who are in the 16th, 18th, 20th round who a month from now are not going to be down there. And that might give you kind of a unique pairing.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about that, like getting a player early because other options might change prices. That's interesting.
Yeah, you always want to be thinking about how like risers and fallers. That's really important, right? We all understand getting a guy at his lowest price is great. But when a guy starts rising, I don't want to stop taking him if he's rising for a good reason. If he's rising because he plays in Coors Field in the playoffs and he just won the third base job and he's hitting he's white hot in spring training, that's a good reason to take that guy. So I don't want to quit taking him. But I also don't want to go in with a guy that everyone else got in the 20th round that I drafted in the 14th round, picking the same players that they got as well. So I want to be looking for guys that are falling down the draft board and combining those two just to kind of make up some CLV in the process.
Yeah, we did. The other Billy Joel posted some pictures of some advance rates on
Those
Corbin
awesome.
Carroll
that
were pretty interesting. And for him, as much as he scored, it didn't really matter where you picked him. He kind of had a bonus like the whole way up the board that he had. Much as he
the guy smashes, and he should have been the 10th pick overall, and you took him in the 4th round. You're in decent shape.
Yeah. Yeah, even if somebody took him in the 20th round, you still had a decent advance rate based on that data that he showed us. So
Right. But that would be a perfect example of, hey, I know that some other guys got this guy in the 12th round, 11th round, 10th round. When I'm taking him in the 4th round, I need to be cognizant of that, and taking some other guys that have fallen, that those guys who got him in the 12th round weren't able to pair him with as easily, if that makes sense. Because the people who were sharp enough to take Corbin Carroll in the 12th round, 11th round early, those people were also probably sharp enough to fade the guys who were falling. So that guy that went from the 5th to the 8th, that guy who recognized Corbin Carroll early, he's not going to have that guy who went to the 5th to the 8th. So even, when that 5th to the 8th player finds its true value, that's a way to get unique and kind of make up some of the ground you're losing by taking Corbin Carroll at his highest prices.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab Cody Bellinger here. I'm starting to get into Cody Bellinger at this price. I know he switched from outfield to infield in between the two contests, but him falling to 93, I think some of the fears of Cody Bellinger and what he can do next year, where he's going to land, and all that, I'm starting to buy in, regardless of that stuff.
Yeah. So what you're referring to there is Bellinger was an outfielder in the last draft. So his ADP was fake. It was established as an outfielder in the 40s or something. Yeah. And they switched him to infielder, and now all of a sudden nobody wants to touch him with a 10-foot pole. And you start to wonder, well, where does he approach fair value? And I think we're there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Berg does like Torque and Bobby Miller here. I like either of those guys. I just have some of them. And this is a price on Cody Bellinger. And we're still in a situation where he signs at the right place. I mean, maybe he's back at the Cubs, but wherever he signs, he's going to bounce back at some point. So
right. I think he will go to the Cubs too. I think that seems to be not a done deal, but I would say 50% likely. Okay, and this puts me in a weird spot, but a guy that I'm just really high on is Justin Steele.
Okay.
I like him anywhere in that 95 to 100 zone. I've taken him maybe as early as like 92. I just think that he's got the goods, and he's in a pretty good situation because the Cubs, that he can get out to a hot start because nobody can hit in Chicago in April. And then he's got, down the stretch, he's got a little better weather than other people have. And he's pretty reliable. Now, normally I don't like to have 3 starters this early, so I'm going to have to back off pitcher.
Okay. So yeah, the decision here now that I've sort of evened out my lineup, I have 2 pitchers, 3 infielders, and 3 outfielders, is Outman versus Eloy here. I'm just going to take the correlation value. I think this price is a bit scary where Outman's gone to, but I'm just taking him as this Dodgers correlation.
I literally never take him unless I've got other Dodgers because his price is wrong, but he's got that 1,200 point, and he flashed it last year. And so you stack him with Mookie or Ohtani, and it's a pretty good situation.
Yeah. And Jackson Trio did go at 85 here. I don't know where he's going to end up as far as ADP. Definitely could get the Corbin Carroll comparisons, like maybe he's this year's Julio Rodriguez from 2 years ago, and he could just keep going up. So I have been trying to take him, but
yeah, he's 19 years old. So he played here in Nashville, where I'm at, and I actually got to walk past him he walked past me rather at the winter baseball meetings. And the guy's got great hair. He has great hair. That's undeniable. He's a good looking chap. I am not taking him at 85. It's not happening. I don't think he's going to get the at-bats. I did take him last night, my first year, at like 104, 106, somewhere in that range. Yeah. And I got chided by Woo Woo and Billy on stream for taking him. And I felt a little greasy. 85, I just can't do it. But good luck to whoever gets it. I mean, best ball does favor the bold. You want to go swing for upside, and he's got plenty of upside, but 19 years old, man, 19.
Yeah. I did well while we're waiting for the picks to come back around here. I got to hear. I think I may have inspired you to go down to the winter meetings. You're there in Nashville, and I said, "Hey, you should go to the winter meetings." And then you decided to go. So what was that like?
Oh, it was really cool. I mean, if you ever get a chance to go to something like that, I wouldn't drive 800 miles, but when it's in your backyard, it was mostly media presence. So if you watch a lot of baseball, I mean, all these, Jeff Passan, those guys are just walking around. There's not really a lot of, I mean, there's some security. Like, it's not like you're going to hop in the back and listen to the general manager's meeting. But there's a lot of agents walking around. I got to talk to Dave Stewart. I snuck back and got a picture at the Rule 5 draft. Talked to John Boyd Media. So, I mean, just all kinds of people there that are available,
Yeah. Was there like people trying to get like jobs and stuff and trying to get like, was there more people like you that were just kind of walked in?
So it's a resort. It's a hotel, but it's basically a resort as well. It's like a pretty expensive area. But sure. There are people that are there for their business functions. There are people wandering around. There are people that are working in baseball. Maybe they're sports agents. I talked to one guy that had a product that he was trying to sell. And so he was just trying to get in touch with anybody, that an agent or a player or just someone that works in the game, just making introductions. He had a pretty cool product for youth and pitcher rehab and that kind of thing. So it's really all sorts of people. Nashville's kind of it's a tourist destination as well as a pretty business friendly. The whole state of Tennessee is pretty business friendly. So there was all sorts of people there.
That's funny. I don't think I would ever do that. Definitely your personality though.
Yeah, sneaking back there for the Rule 5 draft was pretty funny. I noticed like an hour later you couldn't do that. They had a security guard, but if you just act like you know what you're doing, you have a nice fancy sport coat on, you can pretty much get in anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nez is building a big Texas stack here. He's got Seager, Semien, Carter, and Young. So this is a lot of draft capital into one team. The bet here is that Texas is this year's Atlanta.
I love stacking Texas. That's all I did for the first like 10 or 15 drafts. I've done 50 drafts. I did 20 in the bunt, about 30. I think this is my 32nd. And I bet you at least eight of them are Texas stacks, maybe more, or at least minis. I probably have 12, 14. That offense is too good. Streaky too.
All right. I'm just going to lock down Max Muncy here. I don't think he's necessarily going to not make it back to me, but I'm just going to grab him now and be safe.
I appreciate whoever brought up the bucket heads in the chat. I just saw that. That's awesome. That's a long running joke, so appreciate that.
All right.
It's a failed NFT project from yesteryear.
Oh, got it.
I'm open for Gleiber here with the Fitzmayankee. I kind of had a feeling. I need a third infielder, so of course he took him.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to go Verdugo.
He said that in the chat here. Think he wanted Gleiber.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to take Merrill as a fourth starter. Just kind of lean into quality of starter here and probably not go quantity in this draft because I'm going to have to really, really hammer infield late. So I don't want to be searching for trash pitchers. And, man, I just hate taking Verdugo here. I hate it.
I have not clicked Alex Verdugo at all.
Isn't he an asshole, too? Like, don't all his teammates hate him?
Well, everybody in Boston did. So maybe that fits the New York personality. I don't know.
Here we go. And this just I don't like that click. I don't think it's a good play, but I'm going to do it because it's not a good play. And it kind of leans into the fact that if the guys who are drafting straight off a spreadsheet won't take him, then I will.
Sure. All right. Here's a question from the chat. How many players do you want when you stack? Do pitchers count or correlate at all towards stack? I'll answer the second one first. Pitchers don't correlate at all. They're going to get maybe a win if they're on the same team is likely, but I'm not too worried about that.
I think the win, it matters because I did have some guys that got no run support. At the same
Sure.
time, and you can win with 3 runs, you can lose with 5. It's the thing I worry about with pitchers is when games get off the rails, like when your offense really goes off, it's usually because both starters got hit and they started putting crappy relievers in there, and it was like 8-1 in the third inning, or, you know. And so when you get those 10-9 games that we're looking for, it's not necessarily that the pitcher was in a groove tossing 12 strikeouts. You know, it was a 2-hour game.
Yeah. And this is interesting from Turn Me Up in the playoffs, specifically in those 2-week groups. If you're stacking a team that has a good playoff schedule with a lot of games in playoff weeks, then that might lead to those pitchers also having a better chance at 2 starts.
Right.
But this is really thin. I think I'm not gonna try to do that, because between now and the start of spring training, this first month of the season, the playoffs, so much can change that trying to predict who's going to be the starters and what team's going to be exactly good.
Well, one thing I do like to do is particularly if I'm doing like a 5-pitcher or 6-pitcher build, is sometimes if I can stack 2 pitchers on the same team, I feel like I can stagger their 2 start weeks in the playoffs a little bit better. Like if pitcher A were to throw 2 starts in week 1, pitcher B is a little more likely to have a 2-start week in week 2 if they're on the same team. It's slight, but we are looking for slight edges, and it's kind of a thing I would use as a toss up. Like, if I've already got a Miami pitcher and there's 2 guys here and one of them's a Miami pitcher, I'm probably going to take him just for that reason. So I do think there's something to be said for that. There's also, if this offense is having a banner year, like if the Miami offense goes crazy, those Miami pitchers, maybe one of them racks up 18 wins, the other one gets 15, just based off being off an overperforming offense.
Yeah, I think Tampa is a good example of that last year, that streak that they went on at the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
you had to bring that up because I was loaded with all those Tampa pitchers, and that killed me when those guys all got hurt.
Yeah, they ended up getting hurt. But Zach Eflin did end up with a ton of wins too, just being Zach Eflin. But then when it comes to hitters, I think you definitely don't want to go more than 5. 5 is the extreme for me. 3 or 4 is of like a main stack in a lineup that I'm betting on. That team being the driving factor in this lineup. I want 4 or 3. And then I'm happy with a bunch of 2s around that.
Right. If you look at my finals lineup, I overstacked. I had too many Boston hitters, and it bit me in the end a little bit. It's just to score what you need to score, you need guys hitting homers. And if my guy, Tristan Casas, comes to clean up and hits a grand slam, that's awesome. But if I have the number 5 and 6 hitter behind him, they're coming up with empty bases. And one guy is not going to be enough because, I wasn't the only guy in the tournament with Tristan Casas. I was one of the few people in the finals because he was, but that being said, like you're looking for raw scoring. The stacks tend to be guys that are like accumulators that hit early in the lineup. The guys that are leading off, hitting second, like an Albies or a Brandon Nimmo. Those guys stack really well because they get on base. Maybe they steal, maybe they score when your guy drives them in. Those are the kind of things we're looking for.
Yeah. I will say that I personally don't really try to predict the lineups or think too, I don't need exactly the 1, 2, 3 guys or the 3, 4, 5. They don't need to be exactly in a row. When it comes to it, I'm fine taking a guy that's starting the season batting 7th just because you don't know what's going to happen between now and playoffs.
Sure. There's some guys like a Jeremy Pena that hits 8th that may be hitting 2nd pretty shortly.
Right.
One of the things I benefited a lot from was when Albies got hurt. I think I had, or somebody got hurt. I had Michael Harris, and he got to hit 2nd, I believe, right behind Acuna, and he put up like 113 points, and he was super low owned because he had a terrible season and he was injured, and he was going way too early to begin with at 24 or wherever he was going. Those guys that are hitting at the very bottom, sometimes I give more weight to an 8-9 hitter than I would like a 6-7 hitter because it's easier for a 9 guy to spike and get driven in than it is those 7s. And those 9 hitters are generally their archetype is closer to a early lineup guy than it is You know, those 7 hitters are usually like a slow catcher. He's not going to be hitting second generally.
Right. Yeah. Got some some Jeffrey Springs love here. He still finished in the top 10 SPs despite getting hurt pretty early, not early, mid part of the season.
I had a ton of him. I had a ton. Let's not talk about it.
Okay, sorry. Rod had 25%. He's with you.
I still have PTSD. Him and whatever the other guy's name was, I don't even remember.
McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen.
Yeah,
There's 3 of them.
Him, and there was another guy too that was going too late.
Yeah, Drew Rasmussen. McClanahan was one. McClanahan was one of those guys in that early first round that busted due to injury.
So I went Javier there. I have almost none of him. I had a lot last year. It was really disappointing, but I think he's finally found a spot where he's going just low enough that I kind of like him.
Yep. For sure.
Gets weird. I normally take Tanner here. I do like him a lot. I've got 5 starting pitchers, so I don't think I want to do that. And I think I just complete the Yankee stack with Stanton.
Okay.
That gives me 3 boppers in the outfield from the Yankees that, you know.
Well, you have 2 boppers in Alex Verdugo.
Right.
Yeah, and you got your 6 outfield. You can pretty much close off here.
Probably, but with Stanton's injury history, Robert's injury history, Judge's injury history, I may still go 7 here.
Okay. That is perfectly fine. And I am going to take Bybee here.
Yeah, he's a good pick.
It's interesting to take him over Tristan. But, you know, Bybee had the 142 innings. He should be in line for 160, 170. And he showed what he needed to last year. I did take before Shota Imanaga. He's a guy that I'm really heavy on right now because I think that there's still, like, if there was less questions about how he's going to adapt to the U.S. and like the questions on his home runs that he was giving up in Japan, like all these questions about him I think are holding him down. That he's the like type of guy that I want to be in now before spring training starts and we see him do well. He could go down from here if he is bad, and maybe I'm getting a bad price on him now, but this is the sort of news like or visibility thing that I want to be ahead on.
Yeah, and it's what you're saying there is how I feel about Tristan McKenzie. I don't want to go heavy on a pitcher that had arm troubles last year that before pitchers and catchers even report. I need to see those first reports that he's out there throwing bullpen sessions. He's not we're not already getting reports of arm soreness and this and that. I don't want to be heavy on the quantity of pitchers or the amount of capital I spend this early, because pitchers, when they go down, they tend to miss the whole season. And if you're taking a guy at a rich ADP to begin with, and we already know about the advance rate issues with pitchers in general, the last thing you need is I had 7 pitchers on this team, but only 6 of them even made it to the start of the season. There's going to be plenty of that during the season. I don't want to be caught with my hand in the cookie jar, in January on these guys.
Sure. Chip loves his Japanese pitchers. Berg thinks he's undervalued, and the projections do love Shota.
And I just re-looked at my team here. I got a 5-2-6, which is fine. I love taking kind of different builds that people aren't taking. But yeah, it's going to be tight here. I've really got to hammer infield and hope these guys leave me a few guys.
Yeah. Interesting question from Billy here. Are you barbelling your drafts to capitalize on early ADP and late news, or just drafting a bunch on the whole time?
That's a good question. Yeah. I'll let you go. What are you doing?
So for me, my biggest thing is I want to draft when I want to draft. I'm more like, I'm not planning that out. So like right now when we're still early and I'm excited, I'm going to draft a lot. I'm going to get advantage of these news items that I think are going to matter in spring. But then I don't like plan after that. Like it's when I feel like drafting for the most part. Like it's more about, am I going to enjoy doing this right now than really like trying to plan it out. I do try to keep it pretty flat from here on out, but I don't think about it too much.
Yeah, and that's important to be in the right mindset, especially if you have kids or distractions or anything like that. But yeah, to your question, I'm absolutely barbelling. I want to be way ahead of the run rate early when the ADPs are not set. I want to take advantage of guys that are not signed yet, who are maybe going too late. Maybe some of the youngsters that other people aren't on yet, even though maybe load up on Outfield before people realize how scarce the quantity is. I don't think you want to wait. And I do think that when spring training reports come out, that's kind of when you want to blast your second half of the barbell. Because here's the thing, if I get on a guy that's hitting well in the spring, even if he just hits well in April and doesn't hit for the rest of the year, that guy can carry my lineup while a guy like Schwarber comes out to a cold start. And then maybe I advance a low-owned Schwarber who's mashing the whole second half of the season. So I'm very, very heavy into a guy, how he opens the season, because baseball is so streaky. Getting those guys in the back half of the draft who, even if they just start hot, can be huge.
Yeah, that's interesting. So,
you're on the clock. Sorry, man.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I got William Contreras queued up here to go with Yelich. I've not got as much Rhys Hoskins as I wanted since he signed with the Brewers as part of my Brewers combos. I had a ton of him solo in the bullpen. So I kind of wish I had him here, but pretty good. Hold on. Nez is going to take Sal for me, which I think is fine. I'm not too worried. I don't see Sal as like a huge high upside player, and I've got 5 outfielders. So you took Suarez there as your infielder.
Very high on Suarez.
In there.
Very high on Suarez.
For sure.
He's a guy that put up about 1,200 in Seattle last year. He's on a better offense. He can still absolutely rake. And I think here the decision is I just need infield so bad. But I'm going to go down and get Story because he's got the upside I need on this team.
Okay.
Whereas Correa is steady, and I don't need steady here. I don't have any guys.
Yeah, I'm never going to argue with this Trevor Story pick at this point. He still hasn't risen at all.
When this situation, I know I'm going 7 infield, and I may go 8. So I want somebody with upside. I don't care about his injuries. If I have 8 infielders, it's not going to matter if he misses 40 games, 60 games. What I need is him to smash with 100-point weeks when he does play. I think that's one of the things that's really important is thinking about how you're on the clock. How your players kind of fit within your roster constructs.
All right, I'm just going to take the fall on Erod here. And just end up at 5.55 and pretty much be open to go wherever I want. And we were talking about pitcher stacking. I'm going to end up with a Gallon Erod here, and this is the sort of thing that I don't plan, and I'm just happy with when it happens.
Right, exactly. It's a tie break, and it's a good way to do it, I think, because when you're talking about a 2-week playoff, you're going to need 2 start pitchers. If you waste all your 2 start pitchers 1 week, you don't have any to fall back in that second week. And one of those 2 starts might get wasted. You might not even use it, or maybe you don't use the 7-inning 10K performance from one of your guys who started once. So just to be able to stagger those, I think has a lot of benefit, actually.
So Turn Me Up is ready for more drafts after this. I do have family here, so I'm not going to be hanging around for another draft. But if you're out there in the audience, the next room's probably going to be filling up pretty quick.
Yeah. And go ahead and sign up for the Deposit Kingdom so you can be in there and trash talk. I've gleaned a lot of really good info. I know today somebody posted a chart of all the playoff, how many games everyone's playing. If you're not getting that kind of info, you're really missing out. It's like, Atlanta has 39 games over the course of the playoffs. Some other teams only have 36. So when you're talking about which teams you want to be aggressive stacking and which teams you want to be kind of loading up on at the end of these drafts, you really need to be looking at that kind of information. If you do make it to the finals, that extra game or 2 is going to be enormous.
Yeah, and the interesting last year that the final was it finals weeks or the semifinals week that the rain delayed game, the Mets Braves game, gave the Braves even another game to add to their dominance.
Yeah, there was.
It was sometime in the playoffs.
I had Acuna and he got hurt, and so that it didn't help me as much as it could have. But yeah, I think that like a game from a Sunday or Saturday or Sunday got bounced to a Monday, so they got a doubleheader.
Yeah.
I know I had a lot of games get rained out with Boston, New York, which that kind of hurt me. It didn't matter because Boston couldn't hit anything the entire 2 weeks. So I watched my 100,000 go to 40,000 to 10,000 to 6,000 to $750. But
you got that screenshot though. That's worth at least 50 cents.
That's right. That's right. I don't think I'd be on the show tonight if I didn't have that screenshot of me almost winning a lot of money.
No, this is this show is open to anyone who wants to come on. You just reach out, Twitter, Discord. The Sheep Sheets is just about hanging out and enjoying baseball, talking it, drafting. The show is open to anybody that wants to come on.
I'm really just looking to win $100,000 on live stream and immortalize myself.
I don't plan on that happening ever for myself. I'll just take my my 200 YouTube subscribers and be happy.
There you go. All right. Someone save me an infielder. I've got to go infield here no matter what. And this is one reason I don't mind going outfield so early. Look at who's all left. I mean, all these guys are, Alec Bohm might hit cleanup. Tovar plays in Colorado. I mean, there's plenty of options here.
Yeah, Gorman could put it together enough to be not a platoon bat. Yeah, there's definitely guys here. I mean, Abreu is here, and he just keeps falling. And like,
he's probably hitting cleanup for the Astros.
Who knows? Rizzo coming off the concussion. Ryan McMahon again in Colorado. Yeah, for sure.
About the Zhiloff guy in Oakland. I think he's a good player. I really, really hate the idea of showing up in the semifinals and needing to rely on Oakland for an outlier income.
Yeah. So as long I kind of learned this last year. The thing that we saw with Oakland is that they didn't even play their best guys. I did get Sal, by the way, Nez. You didn't take him from me, so I did complete that Brewers 3-man stack as my core. I guess it's a secondary. I have the Dodgers Brewers stack. But yeah, no, my fear with Oakland is that we saw last year they didn't even play the best guys, right? Even when they could. Like they just sort of played guys. Yeah, it didn't matter if they were the best.
I don't feel good when I click those guys. All right. I like Tovar, and Gorman pairs with Jordan Walker.
Yeah.
I think I need the production to just be so guaranteed that I'm going to take Tovar. There's a bit of a floor with Colorado hitters. They can only be so bad. And then they've got the upside spike. And when I'm drafting this late, I have so little capital invested, and I know I'm going to spam quantity. I want to spam it quantity with guys who have upside, not with guys who are all middling producers.
Yeah, I think you could argue that both those guys are upside potentials, Tovar and Gorman. But when we're talking about Oakland, we sort of saw the opposite last year in Colorado, where they finally said, "Hey, we're just going to play the young guys," and Tovar just got like full run by the end of the season. Yeah, that's a good pick to go with him. One of the fears in Colorado recently is that they just keep bringing in old guys to fill these spots. So I do feel pretty confident that Tovar should get full run, even if he has some struggles. So
yeah, McMahon was pretty good last year too, and he hits cleanup a lot, and maybe even if he hits 5-6, I think just pairing those two guys together is going to give me some weeks where maybe the games pop off in Colorado. And even though my infield kind of stinks, I'm going to be able to use both those guys, and I'm just going to kind of get through that week.
All right. Well, I was talking about him for you, but I talked myself into him. I'm going to pop Nolan Gorman here.
There you go.
I'm not feeling the need to find a Mets stacking partner. I know I like Francisco Alvarez good enough, but I'm not really too keen on him being a catcher. I don't think he's going to get any DH time. And then Beatty and Bader, I'm not really too worried about those guys.
Well,
so,
question for you, or maybe even a suggestion. What do you think about Brendan Donovan at the end of the drafts, pairing him up with Gorman there?
I think so. It's got a 239. I think I had too much of him last year, so I might be afraid of him. There was in spring he magically had some power.
He was hitting the ball really hard, like top 5 in the league hard at one point. But he just had surgery, so I'm concerned.
Yeah, I do not have any Brendan Donovan this year. I think I'd be more likely to go with like a Mason Wynn, their shortstop, or let's see. Yeah, I'd definitely take Tommy Edman over Brendan Donovan.
Okay. Edman's got some injury history and problems too, and he's playing center. I'm a little concerned about him. I had a lot of him last year, and he was terrible for me. But I was also taking him at like 110 or 120 or something, and he was just awful.
I think the price is right on him. I don't have much of him, but if I'm building a St. Louis stack, I'd take him over Donovan and maybe take a shot at Mason Wynn. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about Mason Wynn or his outlook. I mean, I might even go as far down as Wilson Contreras, because I think he is a catcher that could get some DH time. Okay. We saw last year a bunch of weird stuff around his like what the Cardinals did to him. Like they kind of benched him from catcher for a while. They kind of blamed the pitching struggles on him, but they kept him hitting. So I think he's like, based on who's there, I think he has a chance to DH. Shoot, I'm forgetting the backup catcher's name right now.
Yeah, I would float Brendan Donovan as a guy to watch because he's not going to be drafted heavily, and if he comes out hitting hard this spring, I'm going to be popping him because everyone's taking Gorman and everyone's like Donovan. If he hits the ball hard again like that, he is just guaranteed to put up 1,000 points in that offense in that park, and he could have some real spike weeks. And he plays multiple positions, so if someone were to get injured and he ends up getting 150 plus games, I think you're in a really good spot with him if he's healthy.
Yeah. So the name I was looking for was Ivan Herrera. Nez is saying Kinzer here, but no, they let Kinzer go and brought Ivan Herrera up, or he's a young guy. I think he is the future catcher for the Cardinals. So I think like having him as the backup, I do think that there's a chance that they want to use Contreras more as a DH than last year even. So I'm pretty comfortable with him over Donovan, but I do get what you're saying.
Yeah, and Underdog's done us a really big favor here, especially for people that are a little more on the casual end. I mean, I can't name every relief pitcher in the league or every backup shortstop. By only making these drafts 20 rounds, there's lots of good guys who are starting at the end of here. You know, guys that are hitting cleanup maybe in San Francisco or hitting 7th and 9th in Atlanta, or so you want to get a little weird at the end of these drafts to differentiate, just because having a low-owned player in that playoffs series can be huge. And then also, I mean, baseball, how many times have we seen guys just come out of absolutely nowhere and deliver 25 homers or 50 stolen bases? And that's where I really hit last year. I did a good job in the late rounds. I had a lot of Lane Thomas, I had a lot of James Outman, Eduardo Rodriguez. I was like 50% Eduardo Rodriguez, and he wasn't even getting drafted in a lot of drafts. And he came out and he was damn near on the verge of the Cy Young. So I got a lot of, he didn't end the season strong, but he carried a lot of trash to the playoffs for me. And that enables you to have those lower owned guys when you really need them. And if they start hitting normally by the end of the season, which the guys tend to do, they tend to regress to the mean. That's a great way to do it, is by hitting on late round picks that no one else has got.
Yeah, so you continued your Colorado stack with Brenton Doyle.
Yeah, I'm about 30% Brenton Doyle. He's my guy. I don't see how you can pop Nolan Jones up to the third round, in the middle of the third round, and not start taking Brenton Doyle. There's something's not right there. If he's hitting ninth in Colorado and those games pop off, you got guys like Charlie Blackmon that could fall off the cliff. Who knows where he ends up? And he's got 2020 potential.
Yeah, I think the second 20 of the steals is more likely with Brenton Doyle's profile, but he had in his action last year in the majors, it wasn't great, but he showed something in the minors.
Yeah, it's just as a seventh outfielder, how often am I going to need this guy? Not often, maybe 3-4 times, but he's got a profile where, and you're on the clock, sorry, but he's got a profile where if I get those big weeks in the playoffs, remember in the last week of the season, week 22, Colorado plays all 7 games at home. Okay, so in week 22, when certain guys are sitting, certain guys are injured, certain guys are resting a game or two for the playoffs, if I get 7 games out of a 19th round pick in Coors Field, and those games are popping off 8-7, 10-9, you're going to feel really good about having that guy on your roster.
Yeah. So I just put some boring pitchers here at the end of the staff for my 6th and 7th in Lugo and Cortez. Cortez obviously coming off injury, so concerned with how much he's going to actually pitch, but we've seen some like elite games out of him that I'm fine putting him as 7th, and Lugo is kind of the opposite. I think he's just going to, like, KC just needs him to pitch. Like, they'll throw him out there no matter what.
Right.
And he's just a guy that I'm putting as a 6th or 7th pitcher on a lot of teams because of the depth behind him, and he doesn't have a lot of starting experience, but just general pitching experience. I think Kansas City's just going to ride him.
Right, and I think attacking those pitcher parks at the end is wise, because those guys can chew up innings. And on Underdog, the quality starts are very important. So if you get a guy that gets 2 quality starts for you in 1 week, like, he's hitting your lineup, period. It doesn't matter if he won the game or struck out 10 people, or it just gives you a lot of backdoor ways to use his starts. And that's where I kind of was with Eduardo Rodriguez last year. He had maybe a little better strikeout profile, and he hadn't thrown a lot of innings, but playing in Detroit, I just knew, like, this guy's not going to get shelled every game. It's just, it doesn't happen in those parks.
As Ben points out here, Scherzer and DeGrom have basically started to go to the undrafted portion. I know I'm mostly out on both of them, so
yeah, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Look at this room. Look who all's in here. It's like, I recognize 8 of the names. I don't want to be competing against Nez, Turn Me Up, you, CLT. I don't want to be competing against these guys with a guy that's going to be out for 4 or 5 months. Who's to say they don't just shut him down for the whole season? Or if he's coming back in time for the playoffs, they're not going to pitch him. He's not going to be throwing complete game shutouts in August, right? He's going to be throwing 80 pitches and getting out of the game. And on Underdog, where quality starts are so important, that's not going to help you.
Yeah, and I think this is where the 2-week shorter regular season compared to last year really comes into play.
Sure.
Even more so. Like, those 2 guys aren't important to Texas in the regular season at all, to be honest. Like, if they can get those 2 guys back for the playoffs at the right time, like the real baseball playoffs, like, that's what's important to them.
And it's hard to get 4 or 5 starters healthy through the whole season last year anyway. Like, why do I want to start with a guy who's already injured at a position where, notoriously high injury rate?
Yeah. And I have plenty of Brandon Woodruff exposure to last year to really emphasize that fact.
So what are you thinking about wrapping up here? You have a 7-6-6. Are you going to go traditional with the 7th infielder almost every time here, or?
Yeah. most likely with the Ohtani Yelich picks here.
Here's a guy, Matt the Walrus, as some are calling him, Matt the Walrus Wallner. That's really been he's kind of come on strong here. It's interesting to see if anybody takes him here.
I'm kind of surprised he hasn't gone based on the hype that has been in the chats.
He's got a great looking swing, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and he did do good in his when he was there on the team last year.
There's a Beatles album that if you play it backwards, it says the walrus was Paul. It kind of explains the conspiracy theories surrounding Paul's death in a car accident before, I believe, between like their third and fourth album. So anytime I see a good conspiracy theory that I can tie into best ball, I like to try to utilize that information.
I will give you lots of credit that you didn't tie a conspiracy theory into this until the 20th round. I'm taking Matt Chapman. No conspiracy theory here.
You knew I was going to sneak one in, right?
Yeah, you had to. Like I wouldn't let you back on if you didn't. Like it's open to everyone, but if you don't, like satisfy the requirements.
All right, here's my pitcher right here. Assuming Ghost doesn't take him, I don't think he will. Guy I've been taking a lot in the last 2 days, Frankie Montas. This kind of goes against, I think that if he shows up healthy to camp, he's going to shoot up, and I want to just load him in the 20th round right now. He's got a lot of upside. If you look at what he did 2 years ago, he was a machine.
Yeah, I actually just grabbed him in a roto draft. I kind of liked him there where I knew I could drop him if necessary. I haven't gotten to him much here in this contest.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm 25% Brenton Doyle. So after this was maybe my 33rd dinger. I've been taking him in about 1 out of 4. So I've got 8 to 9 shares, something like that. I think you're going to see that guy shoot up because it's so hard to get in on Nolan Jones at that ADP 30.
I'm going to assume you know what this means about Project Aurora.
I don't.
Okay. Now you're going to have to look that one up.
I know Project Bluebeam. I'm not sure what the Aurora is.
All right. So overall, how are you feeling about your team? You got 677, Pablo Lopez, Jesus Luzardo, Justin Steele, Merrill Kelly, Christian Javier, and Frankie Montas. Infield is Jose Altuve, Spencer Torkelson, Eugenio Suarez, Trevor Story, Ezekiel Tovar, Ryan McMahon, Anthony Rizzo. Your outfield, Anthony Judge, Aaron Judge, Adolis Garcia, Luis Robert, Jordan Walker, Alex Verdugo, Giancarlo Stanton, Brenton Doyle. So you're going with the Yankees, Colorado stack. How are you feeling about that?
I feel good about it. The getting Rizzo kind of tied it together there because I've got some heavy Yankee exposure there. And I think that's the way you want to do it. Like when you're taking a stab on a guy like Stanton or what's that guy that we all hate drafting? What's his name? Alex Verdugo. I think if you're taking a stab on those guys, you want to make sure like, okay, if this guy pops off, I have the best Yankees team. I have the best Alex Verdugo team, right? I don't want to be sprinkling that guy in a situation where like the Yankees are scoring 10 runs and Verdugo's hitting all these bombs, but I get curb stomped by someone else who has Rizzo and Judge and that sort of thing. So when you're sprinkling those guys in, it's real important to do it in a manner where you get paid if it hits. And likewise there, I went with a 7th outfielder because I don't trust all those guys' health stand up. And I just think there's a way that I could sneak in Stanton and be the only guy in the whole freaking tournament that's got him at the end. He could miss 100 games and I still get there. And one of the things I'm always thinking about is how do I advance these low-owned players that are high upside? Everyone knows Stanton can hit 4 bombs in a week, but we don't know if he can play 162 games. And so when you're drafting a guy like that, you want to figure out how do I get that guy there so that I get paid if he does pop off. Yeah.
And I think you can do that, or you're doing the opposite and you're saying he does stay healthy. But
sure,
I think either side of that like extreme spectrum is where you want to be. You don't want to be
in that situation. I take him as my 3rd or 4th outfielder and just hope he's the nuts.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't want to do that with Stanton because I don't think he can stay healthy.
Right. Yeah. But you can build that if he is. You're not just like adding him because you think he's going to stay healthy and not hit the stuff? Like
I
somewhere
would the
in the middle.
strategy that you're talking about implementing, I'd be much more likely to do that with like Chris Bryant,
Okay.
or even Byron Buxton, because I think those guys can stay healthy. I don't think Stanton can. He's a big dude with a lot of power, and I think you can get 80 massive games or 120 good games. I don't think you're going to get 100. I don't think he's slated to even play 150 no matter what this year. I think they're going to use him sparingly.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I guess in my head, I kind of group those guys together, but I do see that distinction now that you say it. So my team here, we did get a pretty traditional 7-7-6 build. Zach Gallen, Tariq Skubal, Shota Imanaga, Tanner Bybee, Eduardo Rodriguez, Seth Lugo, Nestor Cortez. Pretty general staff. Like, I don't think there's a couple upside shots here in Managa and Bybee, and then just some like bulk guys, boring guys at the end. The infield: Pete Alonso, Royce Lewis, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, William Contreras, Nolan Gorman, and Matt Chapman. Just again, it's pretty boring build.
Where do you think Chapman ends up? Where do you think he's going to sign?
I hope he signs in Milwaukee or Boston. I think Milwaukee's pretty low on the list, but I'm still holding out a little bit of hope because Andrew Monasterio is not the solution at third base. But I do think the most likely thing is that he ends up in Chicago or Toronto.
Okay. Yeah, I had a lot of Chapman last year, and he was so awesome out of the gate, and then he faded, and I never quite dug into why that was. So I am a little scared of his age cliff there, I guess.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is he was hitting a bunch of hard hit of balls, but they were all going opposite field. So his power wasn't converting into home runs at a certain point. So that's where I'm kind of afraid if he ends up back in Toronto or like in a I don't feel like a random outlier is like Miami or something like that. So I do have some fear, but last round Matt Chapman, I'm totally happy with. Outfield: Ohtani, Yelich, Teoscar Hernandez, James Outman, Byron Buxton, and Sal Frelick. So yeah, this is a pretty boring build for me. Did get some guys that I don't take a lot of, like Ohtani and Cody Bellinger and Royce Lewis. So if I'm building like a boring build, it is important to me to get guys that I'm not part of my regular groupings.
Absolutely. If you're doing a standard build, like let's say you're doing something with your first seven picks are 4 infielders and 3 outfielders. I think that is the strongest, like the 0-4-3. I think that's the strongest you can be on average through 7 rounds. Would you agree? The 0-4-3, because you got an infielder at flex and pushing.
I want an anchor pitcher there out of that. Like I want to be 1, 2, 4. I think that's my
too,
strongest.
But as far as projections go, I think that the 0-4-3 is going to beat you in projection every time. Whether or not that holds up over the course of in the playoffs is a totally different argument. But if I'm going 0-4-3 or something of the sort, I want to make sure I get a little weird in the back half of the draft, that I'm not picking a team that someone has auto drafted. Because if people manually create their projections and just auto draft 100 teams at the end, I think they're going to end up with very similar lineups to you. So that's where you want to get a little weird with maybe 5 outfielders or 5 pitchers, or take some guys that are off the board. So you want to be thinking about how you're mixing and matching. The more standard your opening is, your first 7 picks, the more weird you need to get in the back half of the draft. Whereas if you get a little weird at the front, which is maybe taking Ellie early or taking 2 pitchers or something, you don't need to worry as much about going off the board at the end of that draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, excellent point. All right, well, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Raleigh, for jumping in kind of short notice tonight. It was excellent to have you. I think maybe there was less fireworks than some people hoped with you on, but I think behind the outward exterior, I think you have a nice brain for this. So it was nice to have you on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. Definitely do recommend subscribing to your other project there, Stacking Dingers. It's
Yeah.
the first, 6, 7 episodes. You guys have had nice guests on talking a lot of strategy, giving people kind of a foundation for building lineups and combinations. And if you're not working within the confines of what worked last year, I think you're going to veer way too far off with your original constructions.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do have we have a couple of guests we're planning. Next week, the show will be digging into all this stacking data that Chris put together. So that should be good to see that.
Add me on Twitter, RallyDurham. I'm going to be putting out one daily tweet with things that I'm targeting based on the draft season. Like we're 6% in, how I think you should be attacking the drafts now compared to in the middle of the drafting season and late drafting season. I'm going to be working on some stuff for that. But I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. All right. So everybody, good luck if you have any playoff football sweats left over. Mine's pretty much dead, but yeah, everybody. Good. Nice. All right. So for Rally and myself, have a good night.